Hol dir jede zweite Pizza jetzt immer für die Hälfte. Nur bei Domino's. Ist nicht normal.
Titanium isn't just a sin. It's a state of mind.
Paxa Tarika, thanks BBG for the memberships. Thanks to Paps DR007, Haroon AQ, who says maybe Fox News will give Christie her own show. Thank you, Ellen, who says stocks tumbled over oil prices. Thanks, Ellen. Bella Lugosi's bread. CFH79, Hem F Jacked, thank you. Also, I want to shout out our moderators. Thanks to I7 Andy, too. Thanks to our moderators. We have 13 Alamo, Bastion Girl, Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star, I Got That Fire, Matthew Kohai 3, and Surly Dev moderating. Linda Belk, Larry, Misha on X, thank you. Tina Niazi, K. Lowry Body on Facebook, thank you. By the way, thanks to Dolly Clark and Barry Eisler for subscribing on Facebook. Helen Anderson, Christy Claft, thank you so much. And our YouTube moderators, huge thank you to them. Really appreciate it. Hang on a moment here. Some of our viewers saying they're having problems with Amazon today. Roberts Mayqueen is moderating. Thank you, Roberts Mayqueen. Hey, shout out to our Twitch subscribers as well. People like Seed Music, Matthew Kohai 3, Wall Street Shaggy, Douthis, Grumpy Jones, Strong One, Gina Pina, Massachusetts Guy, Husband Unit. Thank you. And thanks to our YouTube members, people like the one and only Snowkeeper, Dinar, just to name a few, Ben Van, Michael Work, Echoing Echo.
We expect hyperbole, frankly, on all sides when a war like this begins. Do you see Iran having more?
Well, one thing that we've seen is that over 1 week, Iran has a great will to fight. With all of their senior leaders being destroyed in Tehran and other locations, we have seen the second and third layer of Iran's generals and security officials willing to continue to implement a defense plan that they've been working on for years. But in counter to them is the United States and Central Command and Special Operations Command with, of course, Israeli security forces bringing the fight directly to Iran, inside of Iran, and also its proxies. And we have even seen, of course, the United States sinking a ship in the Indian Ocean.
I have a technical question for you. I noticed yesterday during the Pentagon briefing with the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, both of them were stressing that they have moved from standoff munition to what they call stand-in munition. Now, this is, above what I comprehend in military terms. Can you explain why that is significant?
Well, now we have seen the mass targeting of Iran's, beginning with the air defenses. Now all of their headquarters and sub-headquarters for internal security, army, and police forces. What the United States is trying to do is defeat and degrade the military capability of the Iranian government to continue to oppress its people, sending, not only destroying, but also sending shock to break the will of the lower level officers, sergeants, and fighters.
I have a question that's on a completely different track for you, and I'm going to need to brief our viewers just a little bit. This is about ethnic minorities in Iran. So I'm just going to paint a picture. The question on the back of it, though, is going to be how much of an opportunity does it represent for the U.S. and how much of a vulnerability does it represent for Iran? But I will paint this picture first. Iran has a population of roughly 90 million people. More than half are Persians, but it's also home to several ethnic minorities. There's no current census in the country on religious and ethnic identity, so the figures vary. But here are the four most prominent. Azeris, number one, are the largest ethnic minority and number anywhere from 14 million to 30 million. This is in a population of 90 million. Azeris are Shia Muslims. Number two, Kurds make up the second largest ethnic minority at 8 to 10 million people. They are Sunni Muslim, and they have long advocated for greater autonomy. 2.5 to 3.5 million Baluch live in the southeast. Most Baluch are Sunni Muslims, and between 2.5 and 4.5 million Arabs live in Iran. They are Shia Muslims. They live in the main oil-producing region. But despite this, they have long complained of economic inequality. The reason, sir, that we wanted to thank you for your patience, by the way, and that we wanted to show this to our viewers, no later than today, Donald Trump said that he wouldn't mind if Iranian Kurds currently hiding in Iran actually mounted a ground offensive, crossed the border and attacked Iran, put more pressure on the regime that way. How much of a vulnerability is this sort of ethnic mosaic in Iran for the government right now?
The United States has learned lessons in its war in Iraq and more recently in Syria about nations that have these different ethnic groups. A lot of Americans watching at home will see Iranians as, oh, well, those are all just Middle Eastern people. They're all a bunch of Muslims. But as you have talked about and shown your viewers, there is a dynamic ethnic, social, and linguistic fabric for the people of Iran. The Kurds in Iran, they have political groups, and at least 5 of them have unified in an unprecedented way to have a coalition where they're talking about wanting to enshrine Kurdish rights in the future of Iran. Now, it is uncertain if these Peshmerga groups, and let me be very clear,
Stell dir vor, du erstellst eine komplett maßgeschneiderte App, einfach indem du daran denkst. Das ist Base 44, eine KI-Plattform zum Erstellen von Apps.
From oppression that happened during both the time of the Shah's leadership and during the current Iranian regime.
Okay, that's interesting, and that is something, thank you for that explanation. It is something we will continue to watch because the U.S. does have a track record, of bringing the air power and then pushing, or at least allowing ground forces to go after a given government. And they've done this through history in many different countries. Sir, Miles B. Kaggins III, thank you very much for joining us. Markets have been volatile in recent days as investors try to assess the fallout from this conflict. On opening, the major U.S. indices were all down on Thursday. Kristen Sulumi is reporting on this from the New York Stock Exchange. Kristen, where are we right now?
Yeah, well, the markets have been in the red all day as the oil prices continue to rise. Right now, we're seeing all of the 3 major stock indexes in the United States in the red. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down more than 1,000 points, more than 2%. Very difficult day. Oil prices are continuing to climb. Some of the benchmark indexes we've been watching are up from 4 to 8%. As concerns about the impact the conflict in the Middle East is having on oil production, as well as transportation of petroleum products through the Strait of Hormuz from the Persian Gulf. On Wednesday, those concerns were somewhat overshadowed by a strong economic report showing that hiring was up in some areas and also tech stocks were doing well. That sort of leveled out concerns about what we were seeing in the energy sector in particular, but those concerns are rearing their head again. One more time, shipping companies are expressing concern about traveling in that area. Insurance companies don't want to insure them. Airlines, cruise ships that rely on fuel to carry people around are seeing their costs increase and their stock values drop sharply. All of that to say that it's very volatile in the markets here in the United States and clearly a lot of concern with markets edging lower.
Yeah, Kristen, you're on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange for us. We appreciate you monitoring the markets. Thank you very much. A UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has announced that he is deploying additional forces to the Gulf region. He says that their purpose is to defend his country's interests and its allies. He also said that he spoke to Donald Trump on Saturday evening and stressed the so-called special relationship between the US and the UK remains unchanged.
When Iran started attacking countries around the Gulf and the wider region, the situation changed. Iran has now fired drones and missiles at 10 countries that did not attack them. These are allies of the UK, where we have hundreds of thousands of British people, as well as British military personnel. Our number one priority is protecting our people.
European foreign ministers have held a video meeting with representatives from the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC. The EU has been scrambling to respond after Israel and the United States launched their war on Iran without consulting European powers. EU Foreign Affairs Chief Kaja Kallas says U.S. foreign policy shifts have shaken the bloc's relationship with Washington. Osama bin Javed reports from Brussels.
Spain has become the latest European country to send its naval assets to the eastern Mediterranean. It will be sending its most advanced frigate off the coast of Cyprus. Italy has also indicated that it will also be sending its naval forces and air defenses. This comes as there has been a meeting in Brussels with European foreign ministers as well as GCC ministers, and the Gulf Cooperation Council has been assured by the European Union that it will stand by its Gulf allies in this time of need. It has said that it is going to try and continue to find ways of de-escalation as well as push for a diplomatic solution, whatever that may look like, for Iran to not develop a nuclear weapon. But it appears that the European Union is also promising that it could provide other defensive support to its European allies.
When it comes to also the drone interceptors, there is a need in both of these wars. So there is really problem with the production. We need to also do more on the European side and really speed up. When it comes to drones and drone interceptor drones, then Ukraine has really been able to produce a lot and can also share this knowledge with the Gulf countries to boost this production.
So as more words of support come from Europe and various European capitals, it remains to be seen how Europe can find its footing in this conflict, where essentially it is an American-Israeli decision to go to war. Although there is a lot of impact on European countries and European expatriates, they've not been part of the decision-making process, but there's hope that the Gulf Cooperation Council and the Europeans can talk to their respective spheres of influence and try and find an off-ramp. Osama bin Javed, Al Jazeera, Brussels.
Azerbaijan says 4 people have been injured after drones fell near an international airport. It happened in the exclave of Nakhchivan. Iran's foreign ministry has denied targeting Azerbaijan, saying it only strikes military bases belonging to its enemies. Azerbaijan blames Iran and says it reserves the right to retaliate.
Today, a terrorist act was committed by Iran against the territory of Azerbaijan and the state of Azerbaijan. The territory of the Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic came under fire from unmanned aerial vehicles launched by the Iranian state. The targets of the attack were civilian facilities, including the Nakhchivan International Airport and its terminal, a school and other civilian sites, all treacherously struck by Iran. The state of Azerbaijan strongly condemns this heinous terrorist act. Those responsible must be brought to justice without delay.
Iran's armed forces have denied firing any missiles towards Turkish territory. Turkey earlier said a ballistic missile was fired from Iran on Wednesday. Ankara said NATO air defense systems intercepted the missile and that there were no casualties or damage. Sinem Koseoglu has more from Turkey's border with Iran.
Life here on the Turkish-Iranian border largely remains ordinary, with a limited number of Iranians crossing into Turkey despite the rising tensions inside Iran and despite the missile crisis on Wednesday. On Wednesday, Turkish Defense Ministry announced that a missile fired from Iran was intercepted by a NATO defense system in the eastern Mediterranean, and that missile was targeting Turkey. On Thursday morning, the Iranian side denied those claims, but despite everything, according to Turkish authorities, the number of entries to Turkey and exits from Turkey remain roughly balanced, making life easy on the borders, which is 530 kilometers long, and no extra measures for security.
This is our country, this is our home, our family is there, my daughter is there, my mother is there, my father is there. So we are living, just normal people, just all normal people. But this is war, and I'm really sorry because of war for all the world, not because of for my country. In the war, there is no safety for nobody, even for us. So they attack all the city, even 200 meters from our home.
They mostly target schools, Red Crescent facilities and hospitals, despite claims that only military sites are being hit. For many people, life has somehow become normalized. In a way, they've grown used to it. What once felt difficult has become part of everyday life.
While many Iranians come to Turkey, some of them are returning, like Dr. Ali Reza here. He's returning to Tabriz.
When another country wages war against my country, I'm ready to fight and die until my last bullet and the last drop of my blood. They are bombing cities. They claim they are only targeting military sites, but that's not true. My sister is very scared. I've completed my military service, and if necessary, I would go and fight against Israel, even though I'm a doctor.
Iranians are allowed to stay in Turkey up to 3 months without visa, which makes Turkey an easy and immediate option for travels or an easy escape during times of tension. Sinem Köseoğlu, Al Jazeera, Kapıköy on the Turkey-Iran border.
Thousands of people in Lebanon are fleeing as Israel's offensive intensifies. The majority are crossing into Syria. Obaida Hito filed this report from a border crossing in Homs.
As the Israeli bombing campaign on Lebanon intensifies, the humanitarian crisis is growing. Over the last several days, thousands of people have been crossing over from Lebanon into Syria, the vast majority of them Syrian. And we're at one of those border crossings, El Jusiya in Homs province. And what you're seeing here is the entrance of the border crossing where hundreds of people are entering every hour today, trying to escape the intensifying bombing campaign in Lebanon. They're entering through the border crossing, which is just in front of you, and then making their way to the administrative offices. There are teams from the United Nations, of various agencies of the UN, as well as other international NGOs, as well as the Syrian government's Ministry for Disasters and Emergency Management. We have been speaking to officials here on the border, and they are telling us they expect the numbers of refugees to increase significantly, especially as the bombing campaign and violence intensify in Lebanon. They also expect that the situation is going to go on for a long time, but they say they're prepared. They have all the resources they need to help people make this a smooth transition back into Syria. Lebanese citizens are also allowed to enter if they meet certain conditions. The Syrian government has also reinforced its military troops in these border areas. There has been an increase in checkpoints as well as security personnel all along the road coming towards this particular border crossing. And it's something the Syrian government Ministry of Defense is saying that is for making sure the situation remains calm and to prevent any kind of incidents from the Lebanese side of the border and even here on the Syrian side of the border. Obaida Hito, Al Jazeera, Homs, Syria.
It is 1930 GMT, and you're watching Al Jazeera's continuing coverage of the conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. I'm Cyril Vanier. U.S. President Donald Trump says he needs to be personally involved in selecting Iran's next leader. In comments to U.S. media, he also said that the son of Ali Khamenei is unlikely to succeed as supreme leader, calling him incompetent. More strikes have been reported in eastern Tehran after Israel warned it would target the area. State media say more than 1,200 people have been killed in strikes across the country since the U.S. and Israel began their assault on Saturday. The United Arab Emirates says it is responding to incoming missiles and drones from Iran. Interceptor missiles have been seen in the skies above Abu Dhabi. In nearby Bahrain, smoke has been seen rising from an oil refinery in an apparent Iranian strike. The Israeli army has been bombing areas across Lebanon. It's now issued forced displacement orders for areas in the southern suburbs of Beirut, and some flights in and out of Beirut's international airport have been suspended. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah has been escalating since the killing of Iran's supreme leader. And France has authorized U.S. forces to use one of its bases on the condition that they are not used to strike Iran. American troops will have temporary access to the base on French territory to help protect Gulf countries. The conflict has put shipping at risk in one of the world's key trade routes. 1/5 of global oil supplies pass through the Strait of Hormuz. That's the narrowest point on your map there between Iran and Oman. This is also a vital passage for large quantities of gas. And all of that has mostly ground to a halt. Lloyd's, which is a major insurance company, says only 40 shipping vessels have passed through since March 1st. Around 1,000 vessels are currently in the Gulf and surrounding waters. Around half of those are oil and gas tankers. The value of the ships alone is more than $25 billion. Russia might benefit from higher energy prices caused by the Middle East conflict. Many countries, including those in Asia, get their energy from the Middle East, but they may now have to turn to Moscow. Dmitry Medvedenko reports from Moscow.
Russia is one of the largest oil and gas producers in the world. One huge advantage it has now, it's not in the Middle East. With Iran blocking the Strait of Hormuz, disrupting global oil and gas supplies from the region, Moscow, with its vast resources, seems perfectly poised to step in. Except it can't, at least for now, due to large-scale sanctions imposed on it because of the war in Ukraine.
Russian energy exports have been squeezed by the West, leaving Moscow with just a handful of buyers of its oil, notably China, India and Turkey, and it's selling at a massive discount. So the jump in oil prices would be beneficial for Russia, but probably not as much as it will likely benefit other exporters like the US. Still, there could be other gains.
Europe has been phasing out Russian energy imports. It's still buying around 13% of its gas from Moscow, but the plan is to drop that to zero by late next year. Norway's energy minister says the EU has been very clear that they want to liberate themselves from Russian oil and gas, but then the events of the last 3-4 days have also been difficult. With the geopolitical situation we see now, I believe the debate will be revived. Russia's president says it's time to act.
Other markets are opening up, and perhaps it would be more profitable for us to stop supplying the European market right now, to move into those markets that are opening up and establish ourselves there. There is no political motive here. I want that to be clear. But if they are going to close us off in a month or two anyway, then perhaps it is better for us to stop supplies ourselves now.
Kirill Dmitriev, head of Russia's sovereign wealth fund, is blaming Europe for what he called short-sighted decisions. He's the one leading talks on removing sanctions imposed on Russia.
The Middle East crisis could end up improving Russia's positions at talks on ending the war in Ukraine and lifting sanctions. Now that Europe and other importers may be more interested in seeing Russian resources make a comeback. Dmitry Medvedenko, Al Jazeera, Moscow.
France's President Emmanuel Macron says that the government is ready to send armored vehicles to Lebanon. Macron urged Hezbollah to stop attacking Israel and called on both Israel and Iran to not involve Lebanon further in the war. France has also authorized U.S. forces to use one of its bases on the condition that they are not used to strike Iran. American troops will have temporary access to a base on French territory. Natasha Butler reports from Paris.
Well, there had been some confusion here in France over whether or not the United States was able to use French military air bases in the Gulf. Well, the French military have clarified the situation. What they are saying is that some US aircraft used only for logistical and support purposes can use some French air bases. But here in France, the French military are also saying that they have guarantees from the US military